Okay, I can see attendees starting to roll in. We'll get the webinar started in about 90 seconds. We'll give everybody an extra 30 seconds to log on. See more people rolling in. We're going to start in about 45 seconds. Thanks for your patience. Okay, I can see we have a bunch of people in attendance now. Let's go live on LinkedIn here, and then we'll get started. Okay, thanks everybody for coming. My name is Michael Egerling. I lead marketing here at Trustero. If you've been with us before, thanks for returning. If this is your first one, we've been running a webinar series at Trustero here for about a year now. We like to alternate in between, one episode talking a little bit about what we're up to at Trustero, what we're building, and then one episode where we talk to a leader in GRC. This is one of those episodes where we're bringing our team on, and we're going to talk to you a little bit about something new that we've just launched. So with me today, I have a couple of speakers who are going to be doing most of the sharing. Nick Martin is our head of product at Trustero, and Scott Knufer is our head of go-to-market and operations at Trustero, and they're going to be doing most of the talking today about Agile, GRC, and continuous compliance monitoring. And then we also have Jenna Martin and MJ Raber from our team on here to help me answer questions. So a little bit of housekeeping stuff. You do have a chance to win a cool clutch magnetic battery charger for your phone here. We have these for Google phones and for Apple phones, and we gave away 3 of these last time, and so we'll probably give away 2 or 3 of them again. And we reserve the right to give them to whoever we want. So if you ask a really fun question or you make a really funny comment, we will make the judgment there if we're going to give one away. And then at least one of these we'll just kind of randomly raffle off after the webinar. We'll just pick someone who contributed to the session to give one of these away to. So stay tuned for that. After the webinar, keep an eye on your email. We'll send you a recap, and then we'll also let you know if you've won one of these prizes for participating in the webinar. The way you participate is through either the chat module that is available on your Zoom screen or the Q&A module. Wherever you ask questions, whether it's chat or Q&A, we'll try to get to all of them. If we don't get to your question, as always, we will respond to it after the webinar, but we usually get to them. You can interrupt us at any time with Q&A, and I'll try to queue up our speakers to answer those questions live. With that, let's talk about what we're going to cover. So as usual, we like to give a little bit of context, and so Scott will spend 3 or 4 minutes telling you what is Trustero, why are we here, what have we been working on for the last few years, and what makes us different than other GRC solutions out there in the market. And then we'll hand it over to Nick. Nick is going to refamiliarize us with the concept of Agile GRC and where we are in the world with Agile GRC, and then he's going to talk about our big step in making that possible for GRC teams and organizations, which is AI, continuous compliance monitoring, stacked on some of the other things that we've already built. Then if we still have questions to answer at the end, we will answer those, and we'll also put a couple of promotions up on the screen. We always like to make a nice offer out to anybody who is out here attending our webinars. So we have some free products that you can have, and then we'll have an offer for you guys to get one more free silly little prize just for joining us today. So stick around to the end. If you do have to drop, we will send the recording out to you in the next 24 hours after we're done. So with that, ask questions as they come into your head, make comments, Let us know where you're tuning in from on the chat as soon as you get a second, because that's a very easy way to get your name into the hat to win one of those phone chargers. So, Scott, I'm going to hand it off to you. Take it away. I'll control the slides. Let me know when to go forward.
Awesome. Well, thanks for that introduction, Michael, and thank you for you all joining our webinar. For those of you that have been to previous webinars, sorry for sounding like a broken record, but some of this is going to be very familiar. So who are we? Trustero is on a path of becoming we actually are the only AI-driven GRC advisor in the space. What is an AI GRC advisor? Well, to us, it's an AI solution that can help you conduct internal and external audits, help you solution compliance gaps, vet third-party vendors, and vet your third-party risk, and answer questionnaires, internal questions and external questions. Next slide, Michael. So our AI capabilities broken down into a few different features today. Questionnaires is a big one. Our AI solution can help you answer questionnaires by leveraging a knowledge base that you may have curated, or our advanced AI questionnaire solution can help you answer questions by just leveraging the content that you've curated for policies, procedures, test procedures, evidence, controls, and so forth. So you don't need, with Trustero AI, you don't need to curate a knowledge base. You can just use the GRC work that you've done already today. Next slide, please. Our report scan feature. So this is the beginning of using AI for third-party risk evaluation. Our AI can help you by tearing apart and investigating a SOC 2 report that you have been given to review. A lot of our clients use this to scale the effort of evaluating those reports. I often joke with folks that reading a SOC 2 report is a good way to put yourself to sleep. So why not let AI do that for you? Next slide, please, Michael. Tailored guidance. This is another really great use case for AI. For those of you that have used legacy GRC tools, you're probably familiar with general guidance. General guidance drives me crazy because generally speaking, when you're leveraging other folks within your organizations to help you operationalize a control, that general guidance creates a scenario where you're getting asked a lot of questions about what does this mean and how does this apply to our environment. Trustero AI will understand any complex environment. It'll understand the tools you use. It'll understand the procedures and policies that you have in place, and it will write guidance that is specific to your organization. Matter of fact, step-by-step guidance to guide your organization or your team member through a very guided step-by-step process or step-by-step guidance. Next slide, please. And then finally, Audit Scan. This is one of the biggest AI releases that we've had to date. It set the table for what Nick is going to talk about today, which is Agile GRC. Audit Scan can do things like evaluate your controls like a human auditor would, give you a readout in plain English so that you can understand any gaps that you have in operationalizing any specific control. And it can do this real time. So you don't have to have a complex audit engagement with a human. You can use AI to evaluate those controls. So with that, I've got Nick today, and I want him to talk about this notion of what is Agile GRC.
Great. Thanks, Scott. Yeah, so the tee up for this is kind of recognizing the very long feedback loops that exist in governance, risk, and compliance today. So there's oftentimes, weeks or months that go by, especially when it comes to understanding if a control is operating effectively. And so there's this notion of bringing agility to the GRC space, and by agility we mean the ability to kind of read and react much more quickly. And this is a concept that's really very common in the software world. So agile software development, and it's something that's been discussed in the GRC world, and we're helping make it come to life. All right, next slide, please. Okay, so why do this? You want to surface risks and deviations immediately and continuously. So we believe that being proactive is better than being reactive. And in GRC, there's a lot that is that can be reactive, and maybe quite a while that elapses, say, between getting a very good audit result, say a SOC 2 or maybe internal audit result. But in the meantime, maybe there's a problem with the operating effectiveness, and the GRC team actually is unaware of what the situation is, and will actually be taking on risk that they don't see. And so we believe that surfacing that much more quickly is better, which then directly leads to the next one. If you can stay on top of these, then you can reduce the stress and uncertainty of audits. So, sometimes it can be highly stressful to get through an audit, understand if stuff's actually working or not. What if there were a way to continuously understand whether your controls are operating effectively, rather than getting it in these big sort of in this big lumpy fashion, where you may go, again, weeks or months without really knowing, do a big stressful audit, then you get your payoff at the end. What if you could find out every single day of the year? And that allows you then to work incrementally towards either gaining compliance in new frameworks or maintaining compliance. Sometimes there's a dynamic where an organization gets through an audit, everybody does big exhale, and then maybe they take their eye off the ball. So if you had something that could give you continuous feedback, that would allow you to not backslide. And then the final bullet here really talks about kind of bringing GRC kind of cadence and agility into line with what's already going on in development organizations. A lot of times there's a impedance mismatch between the change of pace that happens at the engineering level and what happens on the GRC side. So this brings in the opportunity to, rather than kind of big bang, lots of change, just introduce change continuously as it's needed with engineering partners. Okay, so next slide, please, Michael. Okay, so why, if it's so great to do this, well, why aren't organizations already doing it? And it really comes down to while it's conceptually straightforward, yeah, evaluate all this stuff all the time, there's some really practical challenges that get in the way. So first is, in order to do this, previously required a major investment of staffing. So that means get the budget. And then even if you have the budget, it can be very difficult to actually find enough people out there. And so we hear from CISOs that their number one problem is actually lack of resources. And so that's not a problem that's likely to, clear up on its own. So what can happen is, what if we gave them tools to actually scale and go faster? Next point, too expensive. It would be basically impractical to have people looking at every single control every single day of the year. It would be extremely expensive. And then that's because the tech is inadequate. So there are GRC platforms out there. They can monitor some things, but huge swaths of data are actually opaque to them, because they can maybe monitor very well-defined, very well-structured data. But we all know that compliance and the evidence that's produced in compliance can actually be quite diverse, and it's often not very, very structured. So coming up with automation to be able to detect where gaps occur has been a huge challenge. So that's why organizations aren't doing it. And that leads us to, and the next slide, Michael, AI-powered continuous compliance monitoring. So we've talked in the past about our audit scan capability, and I'll run you guys through that in a moment. That allows you to use AI to evaluate the operating effectiveness and part of the design of controls. What we've done is we've now layered on top of that the ability to do those examinations continuously and then surface at the highest level where the issues are so that it's visible and actionable right away. And then we give you the ability to select the frequency that you want to monitor your environment. So, maybe early on, it's it's not helpful to be told where all your gaps are, but as you're kind of climbing the mountain, getting all your controls operationalized, at some point, it actually will be very, very useful to understand how things are going, and you will be able to configure that using the continuous compliance monitoring dashboard that we've developed here. So that is the idea. Use AI to enable Agile GRC and continuous compliance monitoring. All right. I think that means then it's time for me to do the demo. So great. I will share my screen. And Michael, I think I need you to.
Let me let you host and panelists. Okay,
Yep.
There you go. You should be good now.
Okay, great. Okay, I gotta find my right window. Let's do this. Make sure. We'll just do. Sorry, folks. I just need to make sure I get the right thing up here. Okay.
This is how you know we're live. If there's any clunkiness, yeah, you can always not edit it.
It's real. Okay, great. So yeah, so the new feature that enables us to take advantage of the audit scan is here. And so I'll kind of set the table for you guys before diving in. So you're looking at a demo account that we set up in Trustero. It's set up to kind of mimic a typical software as a service organization that is going for SOC 2 certification. So this account has 51 controls. It has 17 policies in it. And in the case of this organization, they've already completed kind of climbing the mountain, as it were. And now they're trying to stay in a state of continuous compliance. So we're showing you sort of the happy case where they've already gotten there, and now they want to maintain their position and ensure that all their controls continue operating effectively. And that is all surfaced here in this control checks portion of the dashboard. And we surface issues here. Now, since this is everything is happy, all you're seeing are green checks. But if there were an issue, it would bubble it right to the top where you could see it right away. And I'll do a little bit of background then on the particular checks that we perform. So for each control, we do three things. First is control matches policy. This is like a governance layer check to make sure that the control and its parent policy are there are no material differences between those things. And so that can happen, organically over time as organizations may be updating policies and controls. They accidentally fall out of sync with each other. It obviously will detect a case where, say, a policy doesn't even mention the control or the area that the control is covering. And it will also detect things like cadence mismatches. So say the policy says an activity needs to happen once a week, and then the control actually says it needs to happen once a month. So it helps you surface those kind of mismatches. And from our experience, this actually happens quite a lot and could result in audit findings, which isn't good, but ultimately can also lead to security issues, which is the ultimate goal of all of this, is to make sure the organization is secure. So helps detect those kind of issues. So that's control matches policy. The next check we do is completeness. And what this does is it looks at the control and the evidence that's actually been attached to that control. And it will determine whether or not there's sufficient evidence to determine whether the control is operating effectively or not. So it's going to say, okay, great. Based on this control, we need to get pieces of evidence A, B, C, and it looks like we only have A and B. And then we'll flag that something's missing and needs to be collected in order to show that the control is actually working. And then the final one is what we call spot check. And this is what actually checks to see if the control is operating effectively. So it will conduct control tests that are very similar to what a human auditor would do, and evaluate those tests on the evidence that's on the control. So those are the big picture things that we're checking. And then, as I mentioned, we also have this configurable frequency here. So someone can set it to every day, every few hours, once a month. There's a variety of choices here, or they can turn it off if they're not ready to actually have it enabled yet. Okay, so with that teed up, then I will take a dive into a particular control just to show what it actually looks like when we're looking at the detail. So this is a pretty typical control for information security. It's a data backup and disaster recovery control. This is making sure that the organization not only backs up the data, but also verifies that it's being that you're actually able to restore from backup, which is a big deal, because sometimes organizations think they're backing things up, but actually when they really need it, they can't pull those backups. They don't work. And to kind of further underscore the importance of a control like this, ransomware is something that's, it seems like it's just a constant threat that's out there. It's pretty frequent that there are, very prominent organizations that end up in the news because they've suffered a ransomware attack. So having a control like this helps organizations if they do unfortunately suffer an attack like that. This is a control that would save that business. They'd be able to restore from backup as kind of a last resort if necessary. Okay, so that's a bit about this control, and then I'll get into the details of how the individual checks work. So starting with the control matches policy, we can see this control has a policy that is linked to it. We can pull that policy up, open it up, and take a look inside. And we can see that indeed there is a whole data backup and disaster recovery section here. And so if I go and take a look at the audit scan, then for each of the particular checks, it will emit a up or down, passing, failing sort of answer. So green check here means it passes. And then we'll have a narrative about why it concluded what it did. And in this case, you can see the policy explicitly states that backup copies of information, software, systems, et cetera, et cetera. So it's saying, yes, I found this control objective inside of the policy. Then I will now go on to the other two control checks, which rely on a couple of other bits of metadata that we have on our controls. So for each control, there's a list of required evidence and then companion test procedures. So the evidence just says what are the items we need, and then these are the test procedures that describe how the particular pieces of evidence are going to be tested. And I think probably the coolest one, or the most interesting one for this control, is this piece of evidence here. Documentation of the most recent annual test of the data backup and restore procedures. And then the test for that is validate that the data backup and restore procedures are tested at least annually and meet the recovery time objectives specified. So that's what we're looking for, at least one of the 4 things we're looking for in order to see that this control is working. And before I proceed, I'll also note that this content in here is fully editable. So our system doesn't have any preference or knowledge about where the content for the controls comes from. And so organizations can tailor these to match their needs or match the way that the auditor will be examining the control. So all of this is editable, can be edited here, or it can actually be uploaded when an organization is adding their controls to the environment. So nothing special in terms of the way our system evaluates the content. Okay, so then I'm going to flip back over to this evidence tab and show off a little bit of the evidence in here. So something you may notice, each of these pieces of evidence is actually an unstructured document. So Trustero does have a rich ecosystem of third-party integrations for pulling evidence. We call those receptors. And so we can pull automated evidence. But one thing that makes our system really different is we can also handle really any kind of documents that would be typical in an audit, in an information security audit. So you'll see here, we've got PDFs, we've got screenshots, we've got a spreadsheet. And so I mentioned the data backup and restore test before, and in here, you can see this is just a sample document that would be pretty typical, that would be produced as a result of doing the test. It says, what it was, when it happened, who participated, what they were trying to test for, and then what they actually did. And so very, very, very kind of typical document here. And as you guys will see then in the test results, it has actually examined those and determined that indeed this is what we need. So for example, here it's set in the completeness test. So this is the one where it's saying, do I have everything I need? Annual data backup and restore test likely documents the most recent annual test of the data backup and restore procedures. And you'll notice it says likely, because at this point, it hasn't actually opened up the file. It's just saying, hey, based on how it's named and what its file type is, and the list of things I need, yes, this looks very promising. We think we have what we need. And then down below, what you'll see is the result of the actual test itself. And so it says the annual data backup and restore test, along with supporting documents like a couple of these other things, confirms that backup and restore procedures are tested annually and meet the specified recovery time objectives, satisfying this control test with documented evidence, et cetera, et cetera. So it's laid out how it came to its conclusion and why. And it will also do the same thing if there's any issue. So it'll tell you why it concluded, a positive result, but it'll also tell you why it concluded that there are issues or gaps as well. So it'll cite all those kind of things. So that is a quick kind of top to bottom tour of how Audit Scan works, both at the so kind of macro level with continuous compliance, monitoring, and then in the detail level all the way down inside an individual control. And in the case of this account, it's done this on 50 different controls. So yeah, I think that wraps things up for me, Michael, unless there's something else I should show off as well.
No, I think that was a great walkthrough. We had a bunch of questions come in. There was a couple that I thought were worth answering live. The team has been doing a great job getting everything answered. One of them is one that always gets asked when you are an AI GRC company. Let me find it. So it's the security question, right? It's like, how does Trustero protect against evidence and content being pushed into AI, and is the AI learning from that content? So that's a question that you're used to answering, Nick. So if you want to give that one live.
Yeah, great question. So what we do, first of all, our organization, we have our own SOC 2 report. So we're walking the walk with respect to security. So we store everything securely, all that sort of stuff. When we leverage a third-party large language model, which we do, so our AI-powered features use some third-party, and we have some of our own local tuned models that we use. When we use third parties, we're using them in a mode that does not incorporate the data back into their corpus. So there's a specific like setting that we actually use with them So they are essentially forgetting what we tell them as soon as we provide the data. So we provide the data, they give us a response back, and then it's gone. They do not retain any of that data. That's part of the guarantee that they make to us. So that's how we're ensuring that that they're doing the right thing. And then any third-party large language model that we use, they in turn also make assurances around their security. So they have SOC 2 reports, et cetera. Okay. Oh, you're muted, Michael, or I'm not hearing you.
Sorry about that. Sorry about no, I was muted. Okay, another couple more to answer live. So the question reads, how does the AI tool link to evidence? We use our current process links in our current process, we link to various sources like Wiz and Snow for evidence. So if you want to give kind of a quick overview of how we collect evidence.
Yeah, for sure. So, and for this, maybe what I'll do is I'll just hop back into the UI because it's easier to probably show than to tell. So here we go. Okay. So, as I mentioned, our system is very, very flexible in terms of ways to get evidence in. So the first thing you can do is just simple uploading files. So that always works. That works for arbitrary documents. Another option that I mentioned, but I didn't really show, is our receptors. So this allows organizations to use our integrations to third parties to gather data. So that's an option. And then we have a variety of other integration patterns. So we have APIs that get data in, and we also understand that, you know, there's a variety of tools in use out there. And it doesn't always make sense to change your system of record for GRC. So we view Trustero as being very, very complementary. And we are not only doing integrations to the sources of evidence themselves, we're also doing integrations with other GRC platforms so that we can pull evidence out of those. And so if an organization is like, you know what, we've got everything organized here, it's fine, but we are really intrigued by Trustero's continuous compliance and analytical capabilities for Agile GRC. We're working on getting evidence out of other systems and getting integrations out of other systems. So if that's something that's interesting to you, we would love to talk to you about that. We've got a pretty good list of those integrations we're working on, but you know, customer demand always influences our priority on which ones we do.
Yeah, Nick, will you go into a little? We've had a ton of questions about integrations and if we have integrations to various sources. Will you talk a little bit about how we handle that at Trustero and what you mean by customer demand?
Yeah, for sure. So we build the receptors based on you know, highest return on investment. You know, so for so we tend to build the popular integrations first, or at least, you know, the ones that are popular with our customers. And so that applies for all the integrations we do. We also have options for organizations that have maybe long tail items they want to integrate against, or, you know, totally bespoke items. So we have a receptor SDK where they can create their own receptors. We also have a very lightweight API that people can actually use, like just a bash script, even with curl, to submit items if they want to do that. So we have a pretty wide range of choices there in terms of how we do it. And then our own internal resources, we apply those against the items that are most you know, in demand with our customer base. So we continue to roll out receptors that way. And then we also prioritize based on, you know, prospect demand as well. So if there were a particular integration that would unlock a deal, that of course makes a difference for us.
Awesome. Thank you for explaining that. Okay, I'm going to take the screen back because we're a little over time here and share our last piece of information. See if I make those black boxes not show up. Okay, so thank you everyone for joining us. I think we have a couple more questions that we're just trying to answer right now. And if we don't, I know we'll get to them. I know we got a couple questions from Vladislav that we're going to get answered. But really want to thank everybody for joining you. We got a couple of options here on the screen. One is to start Trustero for free. So we like to talk about this whenever we're on here. We have several AI features that you can start right now just by going to trustero.com and then just looking up in the top right and saying get started free. So one of them is called Report Scan. Report Scan can scan and analyze incoming security reports like SOC 2 reports and tell you where are their gaps, who is their auditor, is there anything to look at and tell you where to go. So go to page 67 and this is where you're going to see this gap or this this issue that needs to be called out, saving you a ton of time. That's still in beta, so there's no limit on the report scans that you can do right now using our AI. So if you have a lot of them, go and get them done now and try out the product. It's absolutely free. We also have a security questionnaire product that you can start for free that will answer security questionnaires whether they are in a knowledge base or not. So we have a lot of companies that come to us and say, I have to answer a lot of security questionnaires to get new business or new partners, but I don't have a KB. I don't have a knowledge base that we've updated, that we keep updated. And so I'm wondering what I should do. And so we say, you can start with us. We'll integrate into all your backend. We'll read your evidence and your policies, and we can answer security questionnaires for you and then feed them into your knowledge base going forward. So it's nice and easy. We give the number. I think when you start a free account with us, you get your first 600 questions for free, which is a big number. And I don't think anybody else is doing that at this point. So definitely next time you have to answer a security questionnaire, pop into Trustero, use that product. And if you like it, give us a call. Last piece, we love giving away these funny Ember mugs. And so if you are a coffee or a tea or a broth or a water drinker and you like your drink to be just the right temperature, we would love to send you one of these just for 30 minutes of your time. So scan that QR code, schedule some time with me or Scott or Nick, and we will send you a link over to claim one of these things and send it your way right after. No pressure to buy anything, just to spend some time with you on the phone and go over Trustero. Last thing, as we answer these last couple questions, we're going to give away a couple of these phone chargers. And I can tell you right now, the first person we're going to pick just arbitrarily is the person in Australia who showed up at 4 a.m. for this. And I'm just pulling up their name right now. I had it a second ago. They also are from a great town called Wollongong, which I think is just awesome. So Stephanie Vinken, thanks for showing up at 4 a.m. to hang out with us. We really appreciate that. Hopefully you got some good information. So I'll send one of those your way. You'll see an email from me. And then we're going to draw 2 more names right after this. And we'll send over the winners of those phone chargers. We'll send you a link in your email.
Hey, Michael.
Yeah.
I want to throw in, I generally don't do this, but I want to throw in my vote. We got to send Vlad, the last person on the to put a comment in the chat. He's asking how AI manages work-life balance and answering questions in pajamas. That's brilliant. I love that. Send him.
All right.
Send him.
Seconded. We'll send Vlad. We're going to send Vlad one of those as well. Vlad also asked a ton of questions and made a bunch of contributions. So we appreciate that. So we'll do one more. We'll do one more random drawing after this as well. So keep an eye on your email to find out if you won. Okay, guys. Our email addresses are on screen. Send us additional questions if you have them. Please come to our next one of these webinars. And if you were on this one, you'll get the invite to that one shortly. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.